Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
It's been a little while since I did one of these stories, but got another one. Brian sent it. Thanks a lot from WSB TV. Ashley Lincoln wrote it. The only place I've ever called home. Walton County family sues after home sold using a forged deed. This happens in Georgia. The couple say their nightmare began in 2019 when they started receiving letters about a reverse mortgage debt tied to their home. Now, the home had been in their family for years, and they did not take out the $50,000 reverse mortgage. So the man had been appointed power of attorney over the property after his grandmother died and said something about the documents didn't look right. So they discovered someone had forged his signature on the home's warranty deed, transferring ownership without their knowledge or consent. He said it's heart-wrenching. This is the only place I've ever called home, his wife says, speaking to Channel 2 investigative reporter Ashley Lincoln for Channel 2 Action News. The couple immediately filed a complaint with the Walton County Sheriff's Office, who then told them it was a civil matter. And that's the weird thing. If I steal your wallet, you call the cops, I get arrested. I steal your house? It's a civil matter. Go sue them. So to support their claim, the couple hired a handwriting expert who concluded that the signature on the warranty deed indeed did not match the man's real handwriting. So it started as us trying to save our home, and it ended in us losing it over forged documents. And so, unfortunately, they needed to file the lawsuit sooner rather than later. The home was foreclosed upon and eventually sold at auction, despite the family warning authorities and the companies involved. But again, like I said, you need a judge to step in and issue an order to stop that. So they say a land company, LLC, purchased the property despite being notified that the mortgage documents were allegedly fraudulent. They have since filed a civil lawsuit against that company and the mortgage company involved in the sale. According to the couple, the company that bought the home offered them more than $300,000 to settle the dispute and avoid litigation, but they've refused the offer, saying they want the home returned because it's their family home. And money can solve a lot of problems, but there are some things for which money is not a remedy properly, meaning that, if I owe you $100, I can pay you $100. That solves the problem, doesn't it? But your home, it's unique. And you might say, but Steve, not all homes are unique. If you've lived there for a while, it is, because you have memories there and so on. You're familiar with it. The family says that during a court hearing, the closing attorney who notarized the forged deed appeared in court and was reportedly willing to testify that she witnessed this man signing the paperwork. However, the couple say that she was allowed to leave the hearing without ever testifying under oath. And that, of course, is a twist. So all of the forgery and signatures were stamped on September 23rd, 2017. None of this could have happened unless someone in authority stamped the paperwork and pushed it through. And this all happened before Georgia passed a new law that now requires ID verification before making changes to a property deed. And that is a safeguard the couple say could have prevented their situation. And of course, it helps going forward, but not stuff that happened prior to that date. So now they're fighting to undo the sale and reclaim the property through the court system. The man says, we want to die in this house. We want to give it to our children. We want to keep it in the family. And they've even started a fundraiser to help pay for legal expenses. And unfortunately, I've done quite a few stories on stuff like this. And I remember the first time I heard about it, somebody stealing a home by using fraudulent paperwork. I wasn't that surprised because as an attorney, I'm familiar with how courts operate. And many courts in America, the circuit courts that are in counties, are often in the same building as the various county clerks are and the registers of deeds. And so if you own a piece of property, or if you're actually on a piece of property, there is a register where they keep track of who owns that property. And you go into that office, and oftentimes they've got these big books that are filled with these big pages that are representations of the land in the area. Now, a lot of the stuff is done electronically now, but those old big paper books are really, really cool. They're just cool. But I can tell you that courts and clerks and various offices, many of them accept things for filing. And so you can walk up to a counter in a building, and I'm talking about different places. It can be a courthouse, it can be a register of deeds, it can be a clerk of some other sort, and say, I'm here to file this document. And a lot of times there's a filing fee. And if you pay the filing fee, they will accept it for filing. Sometimes they'll even stamp it and say, received, with a date on it. And they'll cash your check or take your money in. But the fact that they've accepted something in doesn't mean they've reviewed it, doesn't mean that they've examined it for legality. And so what someone figured out a long, long time ago was, oh, somebody walks in to the Register of Deeds office with a piece of paper that says, I now own this home, and they file it, and that's how you transfer ownership after a closing, huh? Interesting. So we can skip the closing and actually skip having anybody else involved and just get the right information to put on this piece of paper, pay the filing fee, and file it with the county. And now, according to the county records, whoever's on that piece of paper owns that house. And the weird thing is that in many places, you would have to call up the county or go and look at it yourself to see if anything's changed with your property records. And it's a serious, serious problem. Now, some states and some places, some counties have put into place a situation where you can contact them and say, I own this property and I want to be flagged. If anything happens with it, you let me know. And that's cool. I've also talked about services that you can hire that will watch it for you. And that's good as well. And that might be what you need to do at a place where they don't have the system in place, that they'll do it themselves. But it's a scary concept. But I mean, I've talked to people who say, hey, I took a piece of paper, I wrote something on it, and I filed it with the court. The court accepted it for filing. And I say, yeah, they accept anything for filing. I know where there's a court in Michigan where there's actually the equivalent of like a time clock where you punch in and out of work. And you can take anything you want and go chunk and drop it in the box. It's self-serve filing. And it's been filed. Now, what do they do with it? It depends on what it is. But sometimes I've seen people file things that are idiotic. And I've joked with people saying, one of these days I'm going to get a Batman comic book and timestamp it, throw it in the box and walk out, just to say, hey, that's that's the gatekeeping that's being kept on that box. Now, that's a court. And so presumably when they get a time-stamped Batman comic book, they just look at it and they go, oh, anybody read Batman? No? Okay, and they just chuck it. But the point is that something being accepted for filing doesn't mean a whole lot, except if it gets accepted for filing at the Register of Deeds. And then, of course, it can become a big problem. So here, someone took out a reverse mortgage on this home. Presumably, they got $50,000 in cash, and they skedaddled. And now there's a lien on this house saying somebody owes us $50,000. We think it's a homeowner. And when they found out about it, well, unfortunately, they called the police, and they needed to file an action immediately. And the sad part about that is that in many places, you're going to wind up paying your own attorney fees. And the mortgage company is going to fight it by saying, we think we really paid you $50,000. Now, interestingly, you should be able to track that money and see where it went. Okay, they didn't pay them in cash, literally cash. Okay, so they should be able to find out that, oh, it went to somebody else and it's gone. Okay, but mortgage companies that lend money to the wrong people using forged documents, some of that's on them. $50,000 is a lot of money. I would think you'd put a little more thought into it than that, but it's a crazy story. I hope they get their house back, but it's tied up in court right now. But Brian, thanks for sending that from WSB-TV. Ashley Lincoln wrote that. The only place I've ever called home, Walton County family sues after home sold using forged deed. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. You bought it used from an individual? You bought it as is.